All right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining us. I'm here with Mo Haji Noor
Yep.
and Mahmoud Nasser and Zach Twardowski. So we got all the names going all over the place. So, hey man, thanks for joining us. I know you've been in sales for 11 years. And you've been in a couple different industries, and we'll certainly talk about what it's been like to, for you to transition into insurance at some point. But where I wanted to start was like I think I think a lot of people look at sales and they don't really understand the potential that is in sales, right? And how it helps you in like pretty much all aspects of your life to be an effective communicator, to understand how to run a P&L, run a business. So for you, I'd love to hear your background, like what got you into sales, and then why 11 years later are you still in sales?
For sure. I mean, it was, I don't know, when I was 19, one of my buddies, the president of his fraternity, got into direct sales, door-to-door sales, selling alarms, told me he made 11 grand in a summer. And at that point, I was just like, whatever you did, as long as it was legal, I'm in. And just kind of sticking it through like over the last few years, the last decade, I guess at this point, is it's just sales makes you look at yourself under a microscope, which is like super uncomfortable sometimes, but it forces you to grow. And I just saw like, it took me a few years to like really get going, start making decent money. But along the way, it's not the money that was growing so much that made me kind of stick with it. It was the personal growth, and things that even just like my parents, my family would like say, be like, "Oh, you've changed the way that you speak. You've changed the way that you like wake up. Like you're more consistent with different things." And it's a human development platform.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we were saying that we just recorded another one of these. We're saying during that one, I'm like, when I first started, I was 22. I was not very outgoing. I was more of an introvert. I still am more of an introvert, but you learn how to, work on your weaknesses, like you said. And I was drinking a lot. I was doing a lot of dumb stuff. I, didn't really feel good about who I was as a person. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, did I want to go back to school? Did I not? And then like through this, like you said, it's a eat what you kill business. So you have to get good. You have to become disciplined to make good money in this business, in any sales organization, but especially in ours. You have to become very disciplined. I've changed a lot who I am as a person. I haven't drank in 4 years.
Awesome.
I met other people who, like, I grew up and I went to college. You said you were in a fraternity?
No, I wasn't. My buddy was,
Your buddy was
and
in
I
a
was just
fraternity.
hanging out with him.
So like I went to college and I hung out with some guys who were in fraternities and stuff. And like the culture I was used to was all people who were like, drinking 5 days a week and going out all the time and just doing whatever you wanted to do and living very selfishly.
Yeah.
And then I got into insurance and I got around top performers and I met people like Sean and other people who were like really like elite level people in multiple aspects of their life. And I was like, oh, he doesn't drink. And like he said he had a problem with it. It's okay for me to have a problem with drinking and not do it because I can't handle it.
Absolutely.
And it makes you evolve as a person. What are some of the biggest things you changed, about yourself from when you started 11 years ago till now?
Oh man, that's a really good question. I think I was living kind of like you said, super selfishly, living for the weekends, hanging out with my friends, and then it went from being like a Friday Saturday thing with my buddies to then Thursday Friday Saturday, then Wednesday Thursday Friday Saturday.
There's always a reason to drink, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
and there's always just like a reason to like not focus on tomorrow and just like live for today, but rather than like the seize the day like mindset. So I think for me the biggest thing was finding out it kind of like turned into a game as I started like tracking data, because like sales is emotional, data is not. And so it's like guys have really good days, they get really, really happy, and then they have really bad days, they get really low.
Yeah.
And so as I started tracking numbers and I just turned kind of like maniacal and tracking all of my data and all my numbers, it became more of like a game, more of like a puzzle to figure out how much input I needed to get to the next level. Because when there were guys that were significantly better than me in the past, it wasn't that necessarily that I just wanted to be better than them. I wanted to see how much better I could become and if I could reach that level. Because truthfully, anyone can reach any level they're willing to like put in for.
Yeah. What about for you? I know your dad does car sales. You were doing car sales. Like, did you always want to be in sales when you were in college or growing up? Did you want to be in sales, or what led to you working in car sales and then eventually you decided to do insurance sales instead of going down the line of something that was, from your college degree?
Yeah, I mean, getting into car sales, it was just more so like a job. Like I didn't really look into it as the aspect of sales, but I just figured like it'd be good to do while in school. So I figured it like while I was selling cars and like watching Wiley do it, like selling insurance was like a night and day difference because I was tied down to the lot, like waiting for people to come to me. Like I'd go there after class and I was essentially there all day, every single day. And like, dude, at the end of the month, I'd do my tuition and like I was dead broke.
Yeah.
And like I would open up my Instagram. I was waiting for customers to come, and I'd see like Wiley traveling all over. I'd see him making money, helping families, and I'd be like, dude, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
And it just sat there, ate me alive, and like I didn't think I would be in sales at all, or like let alone life insurance. Like you don't wake up and be like, I want to be a life insurance agent.
Definitely not. No. What was it like growing up? Because your dad was in sales, right?
Yeah.
What was it like growing up? My dad was a doctor. My mom was a nurse. So not salespeople at all. What was it like growing up having someone in sales? Like, how did you view it when you were a kid versus how you look at it now? Is it different?
Yeah, I look at it a lot more different now. Like it used to be like, yeah, sales is like the best person that talks like with the best product, but like at the end of the day, it's just communication, like solving someone's problem and you have a solution for it.
Yeah.
And like now with insurance, it's not even more so about like selling. Like I was talking about it with one of the new guys that was here yesterday. Like when you're selling a car, like you have to sell it. Like this is a one owner, no accidents. Like it's serviced up to date. Or, you know what I mean? Like you have to actually sell the car.
Yeah.
But to whereas here, it's like we're asking questions, order taking essentially, like seeing how we can genuinely help them, not necessarily like to sell them or get the most money out of them.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's like opened up my eyes about sales is like, how can I help them? Not like, how can I sell them?
Yeah. And same with recruiting, right? It's really like, hey, what are you doing now? And what problems can I solve for you? Like, I think a lot of people, when they recruit, they talk about like, make this much money and do this, and this is why our company's the best. And like, they throw up all the things that you think people want to hear. And when people get good at it, they go like, okay, what are you doing now? Like, is your goal to make more money, have more time with your family, build residual income? Like, what exactly are you looking to do? I have a family member who works at Amazon right now, and like she makes really good money, $300,000-$400,000 a year, but spends no time and always traveling. And there was a week where she was like Dallas to Seattle to Boston to Barcelona to back to Dallas in a week. Wow. And she has 2 little kids. So my conversation with her is not like, hey, can we get you to make $1 million a year? It's like, hey, if I can show you how to make exactly what you're making now, but you don't have to travel and you can work 40, 50 hours a week, would you do it? Of course I would do it. Okay, cool. Like she doesn't care what the vehicle is. She's like, that's possible. Sounds good. Let's talk about it. And then you can give the details after that, you know? Mo, for you, I think one of the things I've noticed when people come over from other sales, whether it's, you know, car sales or pest control or solar or any other type of real sales, is that like when they get here, they oversell because you're used to doing that and you're used to like explaining all the benefits. Have you noticed having to train your guys to, like Mahmoud said, just be more order takers, or like how do you view insurance sales process different than doing solar or, you know, alarm sales?
Yeah, I think there's huge differences amongst the three. Like, you know, with alarms, it was a much more emotional sale. It's like the fear of loss necessarily, but they have a tangible product. And then we transition into solar, and solar is just more logic based, right? You're selling on value, not necessarily on like price, but also savings in there. And then I think here it's an emotional based sale.
Yeah.
But there's also, it's backed by so much logic without a tangible product. So it's kind of having to make that transition where it's not like, you don't want to like pressure anybody into making a decision that they then like regret and have the buyer's remorse, because they can cancel whenever they want. And then you start dealing with those chargebacks and things. And so watching the guys go from having just like, it's like a pound of pressure with feathers, you know, not like trying to be like the hard closers or anything, and just like kind of like the DMV voice, as everyone's been saying over the last few days, is just order takers. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm just here to take your order. I mean, as morbid as it may sound, everybody's going to die at some point. That's guaranteed. So yeah, it's definitely been different.
How different is the sales approach when you're working leads versus door knocking?
Oh my gosh.
Like the mentality of it, because I learned only on selling leads. So the mentality was like, they filled this out, they definitely want it. My job is just to not make them have any sales pressure, ask good questions, and get them to, and just basically fulfill the order. And I think when you're door knocking, like you can say that everyone needs this, but like you probably don't really believe it. Or even if you do believe it, it's hard to get your reps to believe it, because they're like, you're like, yeah, they definitely want solar. Like I've knocked on 10 doors and 9 people said no already. So like how is when you throw leads in the mix, how does that make the sales process different for your guys?
I mean, dude, to be honest, it's like still like uncomfortably awesome, because it's like I'm not used to it at all. Like, dude, you go 11 years of just knocking on a stranger's door where, you know, they're sitting down talking like with their buddies, they're having dinner, they're watching TV, they're setting the kids down for bed, they're doing a million things, and you just have to go from, hey, I'm a stranger on your door, here's a 25-year contract, here's a $100,000 loan, here's a lease.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, this person like expressed interest and is waiting for you to call them about it. So it's like, that's still something that truthfully, like, I haven't wrapped my head around yet, where it's like,
Does it throw you off when they're receptive?
yeah, I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, what kind of benefits can you get us? I was like,
Like,
no, fight back.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's just not what we're used to. But, you know, I'm still so grateful for those 11 years of doing that, because, you know, I think there's so many people that when they get into this industry, if this is like their first sales job, they probably don't appreciate it for what it truly is, because they just think that that's what every sales job is. And me and some of the guys were just talking about it earlier. It's like, there are times where, you know, it's 30 degrees and it's pouring rain. And it's like, of course we're going to go out and knock. Or it's 124 degrees in Arizona. Of course we're going to go knock. And then yesterday it's just like, oh, should we adjust the air conditioning? Does anybody want coffee or food or anything? And then people are waiting for your calls. So it's like, it still doesn't feel real, but obviously it is. You know, we've been doing this for a little while now, and it's, I think anybody that's just doing cold calling, they've developed such a skill that would translate into like a higher yield in an industry like this.
Yeah. So from you've been a business builder now for a little while, like the scalability aspect, what are some of the things for other people, other industries where they've never been in insurance? Like, what are some of the things that you think make this business way more scalable than what you've seen with, you know, other types of sales you've been in?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, you know, everyone that, like, from our industry, they kind of view the testing as like a barrier to entry, which I think is a good barrier to entry, because it kind of shows who's serious and who's not about it. But once you get through the testing, you get licensed, you get contracted, it's like the scalability is so much different than in door to door. You know, like, I remember having a year where it's like I was the top earner in my group and I had made, you know, multiple six figures, and then the next guy had made like $40,000. And it's like, you don't ever want to be in a business where only the guys at the top are really making good money. Like we were just talking about earlier, the best place to sell is going to be the best place to build. And I truly think this is the best place to sell, especially right now, where guys can go in with no experience, 11 years of experience, and there's a blueprint, you know, there's a blueprint to like go out and make it happen. And you also can recruit from a completely different like audience, you know, like over the last 4 years, we've built our business primarily on blitzing, which is where you travel 10 days a month and, you know, you're off 20 days a month when you're really not. But, you know, that type of travel starts to take a toll on relationships, starts to take a toll on your physical health, mental health. And it's like, I went from
You can't be married and have kids. I mean, you could, but you really don't want to. Like, I have 2 young kids now, and, you know, whenever I miss a week with them or a couple of days with them, I feel like it seems like they come back and they're so much bigger, you know, and I don't want to miss that much time.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be hard to recruit someone who's like 30 years old with a couple kids to do blitzes.
Of course.
But in this business, it's like the pitch can be like, hey, we can still help you make really good money and you can buy your time back.
Exactly. It's like I think the time value money here is just so much better than anything else that I've seen.
And that's the biggest change, and Mahmoud was a big help with this. Like we went from doing in-home sales where it was the same as what you guys were dealing with, where we were doing a lot of traveling, and we would, you know, I'd wake up in the morning, work out, I'd leave my house at 7, I'd get home at 8 p.m. because I'd be going to appointments in person all day long. And then we would help guys like Mahmoud, but Mahmoud was one of the first ones that really helped us transition into virtual sales. What do you think are a few things that really helped you be able to transition and want to make a change into virtual sales? Because, dude, when you're making money doing something, it's hard to make changes. Like, you're making a few $100,000 a year, and someone says, hey, we got to make a pivot. You're like, but I'm making a couple $100,000. I've never made this much money before. So, like, why were you so willing to be, like, the tip of the spear on that to transition us to virtual sales and just make sure it was going to work out?
Yeah, dude, it was so hard and uncomfortable at first because, like, all I knew was, like you said, go appointments. I would leave my house at 8, and I'd show back home at, like, 9, 10 p.m. So, like, I was scared. That was, like, all I knew how to get my income. And then, dude, all it took was for me to just be like, dude, like, it's the same exact pitch. It's everything. Like, it's just over the phone. And one day, I literally just, instead of calling and booking appointments, I was like, we're just going to sell them over the phone. And, like, dude, I remember selling, like, 4 deals over the phone that day. And I was like, I'm never driving to And then, like, there was one guy in Kentucky, in Richmond, like, 30 minutes from Lexington. He's like, no, I'm not doing nothing over the phone. Come to my house, and, like, I'll be there. Solidified the appointment, drive 35 minutes, doesn't show up. And I was like, this is ghetto. I'm never going to do that. But, like, it was just, like, getting comfortable, getting uncomfortable. It's like once I saw that it was real and like it made more sense. Like we were spending like 2 times the money on leads. And once you saw like the scalability of it is like, you can't have someone go out there and spend, 2-3 G's a week on direct mail leads to go and sell insurance all day. You got girls that can't go out in the trenches, and like, and once we made the switch, like it just made much more sense overall. And like the business has been a lot more profitable. We've grown a lot more, and it just makes much more sense. Like you can't pay me to go back out there.
Even from a marketing aspect, dude. Like thinking of the cost to get leads local to be able to run. If we're in Austin right now, to get leads in Austin would probably cost us $40-$50 a lead, right? We get the same ones by running state and nationwide campaigns for $5-$6 a lead. So how do you even compete with that? Like your marketing cost is literally a tiny percentage of what everyone else's is who are still running that same antiquated system. But it's like amazing for me to have people like Mahmoud who are willing to, and I'm like, hey, we really need to try to do this, and I'm not selling anymore. Like, can you do it? And then he's willing to do it to be, the person that kind of is like, hey, I'm going to be the leader on this movement. It's important to have people like that in your organization. Otherwise, you can never make changes and never pivot,
100%.
And I think like one thing that about our industry that's interesting is the lead types change a lot. Like the people we market to change a lot. So no matter what's happening, like if interest rates go back to 2% and everyone's refinancing, like we'll probably do a lot more mortgage protection, right? But if it's like it is now, then we do a lot more veteran leads and IULs. So you can always pivot based on what the market's doing, and we just shift our focus. But we're targeting, a couple 100 million people who don't have life insurance. It's a really big audience. We just figure out what small slice that we want to target. Whereas other sales, it's like you have a very specific audience you're targeting, and if one regulation changes or a company goes out of business, your whole platform's shot. And that's what always made me feel comfortable about insurance is it was very recession-proof, pandemic-proof. Like whatever happened, we just shifted who we marketed to.
It's literally like the lowest startup cost because like I know I got in the industry broke. Like I had less than $1,500 to my name.
Yeah.
Straight up, and like Jackson was talking about to get like a guy out to a blitz and like a team to do that, like that cost over $10,000-$15,000 to get that rolling.
Easy.
Whereas here, someone can get licensed for enrolling for a couple $100.
Yeah.
We will provide them old leads. Like people, I'll tell them like someone has called this number before, but they never picked up once or twice, whatever. And like, dude, we have guys closing leads from that filled it out this morning, and like, dude, Joey sold 3 from July of last year.
Crazy.
And like one of those guys didn't give me his banking information. One of them told me to F off, and one of them never picked up.
Yeah.
It's like the beauty of leads and the business in general is like they don't expire.
Yeah.
Like these people have a request, and they're always going to be a need for more insurance. Like people are always going to be dying, like you said.
When Mo, when you first started looking into insurance, so I guess go through like how you and Mahmoud met, and then and then like what you thought about the industry versus now that you've been in it for a little while, or in a little while, like a month, but like now that you've been in it, what are different than the way you perceived it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll kind of start with how we got connected. It was probably like a year and a half ago, like maybe more than that, like October of 2023. He had just like hit me up, asked me what industry I was in, and I knew he was recruiting, but it's like I opened up my Instagram DMs, and all of my Instagram DMs was me recruiting people. And over the last like few months, I'd gotten reached out to by Mahmoud. I gotten reached out to by Wiley, a couple other guys that are here now, and like I just kind of like brush it off. I talked to like some of the guys a little bit. Mahmoud hit me up, and I hit him with the Uno reverse gif.
Yeah.
I was like, no, how about you tell me what it is that you're doing and what it is that would like kind of make you want to change. And as we started talking, I was just like, dude, let's just like stay in touch, genuine guy, like super honest. And he was just like, dude, it sounds like you've got a really great setup. And I was like, kind of sounds like the same for you, to be real. Like you're building, I'm building. Worst case scenario, we're in each other's networks. And just kind of started, kept doing my own thing. Like we kept on building in solar. We had like a really good year, and then until we didn't, and we started seeing kind of like those things that you were saying, like financial markets started to change, the cost of borrowing money started to change, and that completely changes what our travel model was. The cost of travel started to change. You went from spending, 10, 15 grand a month per team on travel to $25,000 a month per team. You got 4 teams, you're 100 grand in the hole before you knock a door, And it's like, as we started talking, I think one of the biggest things with Mahmoud was I saw like the consistency, and it wasn't just like the consistency in like the posting, but I started to keep a spreadsheet of, okay, here are the top 20 writers in his agency. Let me see how long these people actually stick around, and let me see what happens to the average monthly issued premium. And so over the course of like 3 months, it continued to go up, and you started to see a lot of like the same names within like All Star and the Blueprint and Playbook all like continue to go up.
Yeah.
So I saw there was like upward mobility, there was retention, and it wasn't just like, you know, him and you and Wiley like making money. It's guys that were like brand new that just started coming in that were making money. So, and then we started having the conversations, and you know, we went through a long interview process of like meeting with a couple different agencies, a couple different IMOs before we landed here. And it's just the more people that I talked to outside of y'all's group, to be honest, it's like the easier of a decision it kind of became, because it just reaffirmed every single thing that we thought.
What was the biggest thing that stood out about like Mahmoud's group compared to the ones you talked to? Because I think we've always tried to be super careful about maintaining our culture and not like, I know that word gets bastardized a lot. We'll talk about culture, but like for us, I think it means like we care about the people we work with. We're going to be sort of selective with how many people we bring in, and we're going to make sure our guys get paid. And like it's important to us to not have negativity or anything that will ruin our culture. And we've gotten rid of people who've been bad for the culture on purpose, even if they're productive. We're like, you're out of here. So like that's always been my vision. But from your side, what did you see that stood out differently about Mahmoud's group as opposed to the other agencies or companies you talked to?
For sure, that 100% that, because it's like every single like other agency that I talked to, other IMOs for the most part. Let me not say every single one.
Yeah.
But it was always telling me like, hey, this is like what you can do. This is what you can do. This is how much you can make. I'm like, hold on, I'm leaving an industry where I'm doing really well for myself, but my reps aren't making the kind of money that I wanted to see them make and have the kind of success that they wanted to. So our entire conversations just revolved around like how my reps were going to do, what it was that we were going to do. And it's like creating an actual like blueprint of a 30, 60, 90-day ramp-up period of coming over with the group and how it was that they were going to become successful. It wasn't just like, oh man, like we're going to build something great. You and I are going to do so well. We're going to make so much money. It's like, hey, like these guys, and dude, as he started like talking to the guys like one-on-one, being available for them while I was like, you know, figuring things out like on the business end for us, it's like you could see within y'all's group that it really is just like a speak softly, carry a big stick, and make sure that everybody that's around is eating. I kind of call it like the big table instead of the big plate mentality, and that's what I've loved the most.
Yeah, and I think they've done a great job of maintaining that culture too, and that's kind of how we always were. It was like we don't necessarily want to be the flashiest, but we want. Like Mahmoud and I went to a meeting one time, and there was a bunch of people. It was a networking like paid event meeting, and they were going in the room and they were asking kind of people like, hey, like how much money do you have in your business accounts? And like we were so proud that all of our guys talked and they had a lot of money in their accounts. And then there was some other people there where like the main guy had a lot of money, but like everyone else was like broke.
Yeah.
But they like were broke wearing a Rolex, and I'm just like that's so far against like I know, and I'm just like that's so far against everything we've ever taught. You know, and so I'd love Mahmoud you to talk about this. Like, what are your thought process on money? You know, it's not about having the flashiest stuff, but it's like we try to teach our agents how to have real financial stability and like education with what to do with your money, like how you like pay taxes, what are good investments? Like, do you really need to buy another Gucci belt and put it on layaway because you can't afford it? Like, you know, like, do you need to finance, you know, Louis Vuitton shoes today? Like, you probably don't need to do that. Like, we're very serious about making sure people are in a good financial situation.
100%. And I think, like, it just goes back to, like, the culture and, like, our guys just being genuine because, like, dude, money will make or break you. Like, I know for a fact I can, Wiley can. Like, if we didn't want to show up to work for a few months, like our bills are paid, but like it's not about money at one point. It's about like the lives that we're impacting, whether it's our clients or our agents. And I think like all the money, like dude, it's gonna come. Like the fancy cars, the nice houses, it will come. But you just gotta have that set, established foundation, just like we've established here. And I think like, dude, you've helped me get into real estate. Like that was uncomfortable as hell. Like I couldn't ask my dad for advice. They're like, yo, we're about to do a B&B compound. Like it costs $2 million. He looked at me like I was crazy. He was like, how much are you putting down? Like, dude, I think you can get an apartment with that. Like, are you sure? And I was like, you haven't done the things that, like, Zach has done, for example, Dad. And, like, that's something that was, like, uncomfortable for me to do. But it was just, like, seeing the bigger vision and, like, seeing where my mentors are at and where I want to be at.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people push their agents to buy stuff because it makes them work. Like, I've heard that so many times in sales. People are like, hey, get your agents to buy a car that has a big payment so they have to work. And I'm like, dude, I'd rather have people be financially stable and then like develop into people that want to work because they enjoy the journey. You know, I think that's really important. The other thing you talked about is a book we both had read is Made in America by
Sam Walton. Yeah.
About Walmart. And I think Sean probably talked about this when you met with him, or maybe he did. He talks. That's like the Home Depot, the Walmart concept. Like a little bit of a lot is a lot.
Oh yeah, he did talk about the Home Depot one. Yeah.
Can you talk about that concept and like from your you're new at FFL, but that's like what our business is built on is like doing the best thing by the consumer or the best thing by the agent will eventually do really well for the company. That's what Sam Walton did. He built, he built stores, made everything really cheap. A lot of people would go to the stores. He'd make a lot of money eventually.
Absolutely.
How do you see the parallel with those two things with what we're doing here?
Yeah, that was like one of the biggest things that drew me here as well, is just, as I talked to other places, what they would talk about is kind of like what I was saying. They're like, hey, this is how you're going to make so much money. We're not going to collapse the stack. And they kind of tried to like villainize the way that FFL pays reps at a higher comp. And they're like, hey, you need to protect your margin and your override, and you keep your like agents at like a lower comp. And it's like, no, because if you keep your agents at a higher comp, they're going to stick around. Everybody's going to want to come here. And, would you rather have 50% of a grape or 10% of watermelon?
Yeah.
You get more fruit from the watermelon, And so it's like when I kind of saw the way that the plan worked over here, it's like this becomes the best place for anybody to sell, and I don't think there's any questions about it, whether it comes from comp, the bonuses, how everything's all done. Culture and everything aside, like when you just look at like the cold hard fact, it's like this is going to be the best place where the reps are going to make the most amount of money. And as a leader and as someone that's trying to build a business, that's where you want to build, is the place where you have that stability and profitability. And that doesn't come from trying to make the most amount of money in like one transaction, kind of like you guys were talking about in real estate. It's one cookie now or two cookies later.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like I think a lot of people want to get their couple guys and like stop recruiting and let everyone else do all the work. And the way I've always viewed it is, as long as you keep bringing on new people and having new legs pop out, like you always be super profitable. And if I want Mahmoud to keep bringing on new legs, but I'm not doing it myself, why would he listen to me anymore? And why would he respect me as a leader anymore?
Absolutely.
Like he shouldn't if I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So my thing has always been like, I'll keep, instead of always having to like tell him, if I just go like, hey, you should do this, and he sees me doing it, then he'll keep doing it, right?
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people want to retire. I'm like, dude, I'm 29 years old. If I wasn't working every day, I don't know what I would do, but I get a lot of enjoyment out of doing stuff like this, talking to people, getting to work with agents. And it's like, I'm 29. I don't need to be retired right now.
For sure.
But if you do the things that you want your guys to do, then they'll follow the path, and it's not all about me making money. It's like, I want to make more money. I want to impact more people. And I also want to set the right example for Mahmoud, who will set the right example for you. Right.
Absolutely. I think as we started talking, and I noticed like he was like walking the walk as well. He's like, the highest average issued premium within the company, and it's like he's also leading from the front and going out and selling. And so it's like you can't tell someone to do something you're not willing to do yourself, and that's been pretty obvious within this whole group.
Absolutely, and that's the other thing that's always been good for me. Like you got to spend time with Sean, who's the CEO of the company. Yeah, he's exited the company for a ton of money. And then I exit after him for money, not as much as him, but some money. And being able to work with him while he kept working still was good for me, because I was like, I have no excuse. Like he's still working.
Yeah.
Why would I not be working? And I think that's an important standard to set. Is like there's a lot more enjoyment in the journey than the destination.
Yeah.
I think when we get our agents and our people to fall in love with the process of sales, impacting people and working, and that's a lot better than just like being materialistic with everything at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
That's the biggest, is like seeing what it's done for the agents, like seeing Big Al buy a house, or like, dude, when I was talking to Tanner on his birthday, and I was like, he was at his first lock-in for his birthday, and I was like, dude, like, you just turned 24, I think. I was like, what's your birthday wish this year? And he was like, if I can make 6 figures by the end of the year. And I was like, what if I told you like we can have that done within like 6 months?
Yeah.
Months? And he just had a big smile on his face and was like, let's do it. And Mo said something to me, he was like, my guys, and I was like, yeah, your guys are our guys now. Like, they're our guys, you know what I mean? And it was like when we met up like the first time, it was like you're meeting buddies like you played Xbox with back in the past. You know what I mean? It was like, they're all great guys. Like we all have the same vision and we're all on the same mission. It was like once they saw that, like I didn't realize like more like CEOs and other companies, like they don't really get down there with the guys. And like when people see that, it's huge. But like to us, it's normal. Like I know for a fact, like I'm no better than him or any other guys. Like we're all just as human. But like when people see that, like I didn't realize how common of a thing that is in like in the indie business, really.
Any company you see, any company you see doing really well, like that's the top level of leadership is willing to get their hands dirty. Like take out of our business, well, out of the distribution, at our convention, National Life Group was there and they were talking, right? And their company is the #1 IUL company in the country, and their CEO was talking at the convention. There was not at that conference. Not like I love all of our carrier partners, but there was no other CEOs there. Yeah. You know, and we're their 4th biggest distributor, and with all the other carriers, we're their #1 distributor. But there was one CEO there, you know, and like that's why people like. I just see it all the time. You're like people that do stuff like that, their companies grow like crazy. Mm-hmm. See, Dana White is always out there talking. UFC is huge, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's just in any industry you look at, the top little people to get their hands dirty, they grow their companies the fastest. And I think that's a great way to live and a great mantra to live by. So appreciate y'all doing this, man. Looking forward to seeing y'all crush it this year, and we're just getting started.
Absolutely, just the beginning.